Good afternoon, team. Thank you for creating time to join this meeting. I see we are a number of people joining, and as we wait for some other colleagues to join, we would begin with the round of introduction. I see we are quite a number. Then I'll allow each one of us to introduce themselves. Maybe you will tell us your name and the organization you work at. Feel free to unmute before we begin. I see Flora. Flora, kindly.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Katha Mugao, Director Frolics of Hope. We are based in Nakuru and we do child rescue, reporting, rehabilitation, reintegration, and repatriation for children that have gone through trafficking and abuse.
Thank you, Flora. Karibu sana. I see Margaret Kivuvi. Margaret. Margaret, if you are speaking, you are muted.
Good afternoon. I'm Margaret Kikuvi. I'm Gender, Youth and Social Inclusion Advisor at Microenterprise Support Program Trust. And I have an interest on child protection. That's why I logged in for this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margaret, and you are in the right platform. Hali Ibrahim. Hali? It seems Hali is unable to speak. Wycliffe?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Wycliffe.
My name is Wycliffe Ngoda, the chairperson of a Savvy Association, Vihiga County. We do child rights advocacy, and we work with households with vulnerable children in need of care and protection, and we provide interventions. Thank you.
Asante sana. Dorothy?
Yes, I'm sorry, it's when I've joined.
Oh, sorry for that. We are just doing some round of introduction, stating our name, where we come from, and the organization we work.
Okay. My name is Dorothy Adenga. I'm a director. I have a school, and I also work with children. So when I got this link, I thought this is the right forum to be in. I come from Kisumu.
Thanks, Dorothy. You are in the right channel. We are just starting, and I'm glad you'll enjoy what you'll experience from joining this session. I see Masimora Mokaya. Masi, kindly introduce yourself.
Maybe before Mercy, maybe I would introduce myself.
It's okay. Feel free to proceed.
Oyanga Monica is my name. I work for the county government of Kisumu. I'm a nutritionist.
Thank you, Monica, for joining. Mercy? Maybe she could come later. I see Vivian. Vivian, long time. It's been a while. Karibu sana, Vivian. Vivian Okoth. Vivian, if you are speaking, you are muted. Okay, maybe she could come later. Rosalia Macau. Rosalia.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the invitation. And we're happy to be in this platform where we learn and interact and see the achievements that have been made within this quarter for the benefit of the child.
Thank you so much, Rosalia, for that introduction. And thank you for being a consistent member of Children Agenda Forum. I see Wycliffe Ngonda. Wycliffe, your name, where you come from, and your institution.
I thought I just introduced myself a moment ago. I'm Wycliffe Ngoda, the chairperson of ASEVI Association in Vihiga. We do mainly child rights advocacy, and we work with the families with the vulnerable children in need of care and protection, and we seek for various interventions for them. Thank you.
Asante sana, Bwana Wycliffe. That one was a good one. I see we are all done. If I left anyone behind, sorry about that. If I left anyone behind, you could feel free and do it on the chat.
Can I now?
Yes, please, Vivian.
Good evening, everyone. Oh,
Your background could be messy.
it's
okay.
raining.
You can proceed. Okay.
Can you
Go
hear
ahead.
me? My name is Vivian Okor, and I'm the director for Integrated Community Development Program. It's a CBO based in Siaya, and we focus on food, nutrition issues of children, and also in education.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for being our member and always making time to join our platform. I think with that, we are good to go. I see the only person who has not introduced herself is Janet, but Janet would come in today as one of our facilitators. So let's hold on to her. I'm Stanley Okoth. I work at the African Institute for Children's Studies. Basically, what I do at the African Institute for Children's Studies, I coordinate networks. Now the Children Agenda Forum. The Children Agenda Forum is a network of child-focused organizations advocating for child-specific indicators of sustainable development goals. Our objective areas are, coordinating the network, where as per now, we have more than 186 organizations as our member organizations advocating for children rights and children welfare. Another thing, we make sure that data on child-related indicators are ready to access. And when you visit our website, you'll be able to see them. We support advocacy in policies. And lastly, we ensure that our member organizations are facilitated in building their skills and capacities to undertake their work. So CAF is a voluntary network. You just need to get approval from the Secretariat, which is the African Institute for Children's Studies. We have a Google form where you would feed us with your information. Then after we add you in our platforms. Today, we have our quarterly meeting, and our focus area will be the current issues affecting children in Kenya. We have a guest speaker, Madam Janet, that I want to welcome now to take us through the session. So with that, karibuni, and let's learn, relearn, and enjoy the session. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you very much, Stanley. Thank you everyone for joining in. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Janet Irungu. I'll tell you a little bit about Janet Irungu, then the organization that I founded. I'm a seasoned social worker. I've been in practice for child protection for the last 15 years. And this has helped me work with children, work with policies that help children, work with organizations that want to review their policies to help their children so that they can safeguard children. Most of the work that I've done around the child protection and safeguarding is on policies, capacity building, reviewing of the policies that are existing in organizations, in schools, and even in the Ministry of Education, just capacity building so that you can safeguard our children in these areas, either in churches, schools, and also in organizations that you work with the children. Nafasi Yangu Africa was founded last year, 2024, and its main agenda is to safeguard children, child protection and safeguarding. We want to create clarity and consistency in safeguarding these children. We want to have across-board safeguarding policies that once we know a child is a child, a child does not belong to organization. A child belongs to Kenya, a child belongs to all of us. So that when a child is moving from one county to another county, is also safeguarded by the same policies and is not abused and is not prone to any other abuses. We want to hold child caregivers accountability. We want to hold them accountable to their children. We want to hold them accountable to the policies that they want to put in place to safeguard their children. We also want to make institutions accountable in working with children. I am very passionate about children and safeguarding. And as I've said, I've worked for the last 15 years with children, and I'm really, really happy to join this group. Thank you, Stanley, for inviting me. And yeah, that's it about me. I would like us to be very engageful in this meeting. It's not a one-man show. We've been working with children. We know how we want to safeguard them, but we want to create a common ground on how to safeguard these children. What are these policies that we are using to safeguard our children? Are they across board? As one organization says this, and then another one says this, and does that make our children become prone to abuse, or are we safeguarding these children in our institutions? Thank you very much, Stanley.
Thank you, Janet. And I think with that well kind of introduction, we'll just go direct to the session outline, and I'll get it back over to you, Janet.
Okay, thank you very much again. So before we start this session, I would like us at the back of our minds, when we are discussing these sessions and as we are going through these slides, we want to answer questions about our children. We want to know what is our understanding of the underlying and emerging issues for children. Have those questions at the back of your mind in your organization where you work as an individual. By the time we finish this meeting, have an answer to at least 3 of these questions that I'm going to ask, so that you can even sit down with your organization and plan how you're going to have mitigations for safeguarding. So number 1, understanding the underlying and emerging causes of children risk. Number 2, how can we make effective strategies in our organizations, in our community, and at home where our children are? How can we make strategies that safeguard our children? Number 3, what kind of attitudes, what kind of positive interactions can we do in our spaces, in our organizations, at home, in our community, in our churches? What kind of positive interactions can we do so that we can safeguard our children? So as we start, Stanley, I would like us to start with the first slide, and I'll just pick any one of you if you're comfortable to answer. You don't need to put your camera on. Kindly share the slide, Stanley, slide number 1. Today we are going to talk about what are the major risks and major safeguarding issues that we have in our community for children. What are these issues that really affect our children, and how can we go about it? Our number 1 and most mentioned was mental health challenges, right? I've been a facilitator in many schools, and most of the children have mentioned how they are stressed. Sometimes somebody would ask, why would a child be stressed? Children are stressed. Why? Because of their environment where they are, the caregivers who they stay with, even the school activities, because they feel they are stressed and they need to have a mental ability and a mental stability environment to be able to work through their issues. Remember, these children are in different categories. We have children, we have toddlers, we have teens, we have youth. So in different categories, they suffer mental health challenges. And as the slides mention, there are rising causes, that is depression, anxiety, suicide among children, it's a rising cause, and then limited access to mental health services in schools and in our community. Need to destigmatize and early support of this structure. I'd like to ask, there's one person who has mentioned about they're in Kisumu. They're in Kisumu and she's a director somewhere. Yeah? Was it Global Foundation? How do they mitigate? Can you hear me? This is Mercy Mora. Mercy, are you there?
Mercy had mentioned she was unable to speak. I think it was Margaret or someone.
No, Margaret is not in Kisumu. She's in Nairobi. That's Margaret Kikuvi.
Oh, she's in Nairobi. Okay, sorry. So you are working for?
I work for Microenterprise Support Program Trust as the Agenda Youth and Social Inclusion Advisor, but I have an interest in child protection, which is my area as a social worker. My background is social work.
Okay, that is so nice. That is fantastic. I'd like to just put it out to you as a social worker, as a mental health practitioner. How are you mitigating mental health in your youth? You're working with in the youth space. Maybe you could highlight some of the things that have worked for you so that we can be able to report and also write something that is underlying for the mental health for children.
One of the issues is to ensure there are peer counselors, peer, they have, what is it called? They have forums where they can be able to sit as peers and discuss about their issues freely. And there's then there is a contact person that they're able to air their views. When the issues are beyond them, then they're able to advance this to someone who is more qualified to be able to deal with their mental issues. The other one is just ensuring children understand issues of they need to be protected against, like school-related gender-based violence, where this occurs, where as they go to school, in the communities and in schools, and having a teacher or an assigned patron who is able to address that, and also having what you may call box. You remember the suggestion boxes we used to have in school those days for us, those who are earlier. There's also like GBV boxes where they can be able to anonymously slip in their concerns, and then there's a committee that can be able to the committee is able to sit together, look through what is coming up, and address children issues, both at school and in the individual children. That's what I would contribute to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What I'm getting from you and the peer-to-peer counselors, we are trying to identify the potential risk and provide guidelines to mitigate the risk management. That is very, very positive about that. We're also ensuring that our children understand, and this I would emphasize, age-appropriate information. Age-appropriate information is very, very important because it creates accountability. We establish clear roles and responsibility, ensuring that action can be monitored and evaluated. If age-appropriate information is not across board, these children will do more harm than good to these children. What else do we need to do? We also need to protect the children and the staff members in their mental well-being. Because when we create a safe environment by setting clear standards for behavior and reporting and interventions, this helps to know what is the guideline for our staff members, our adults, our caregivers who are working with the children, and what is the responsibility of this child? What is the role of this child in the age-appropriate information? We need the guidance so that we can make decisions. We need to help the staff and the leaders and the caregivers also to respond appropriately to safeguarding concerns. Please share the next slide. Anyone with a question? We can add any information that you feel free to raise your hand, ask a question. Stanley, kindly share the slide, the next slide. We also need to know about, yeah?
I was saying, as on matters mental health, as an organization, we have comprehensive play therapy for children that are 12 and below, because majority of them may not really articulate the what's going on in their minds, and because like we are Africans and Kenyans, and traditionally children, most of them in most households, are not allowed to speak their mind. And so we use play as part of communication with them. We actually, like the youngest child we've done therapy for is like 4 months. So it kind of helps, even for them to understand what's going on, and even for the parents themselves to know how to deal with children mental health issues, and also how to not re-traumatize the children further. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. What's your name again? Flora.
Yes, I'm Nkatha. Well, people know me as Nkatha. I'm Nkatha, the director of Frolics of Hope. We are based in Nakuru.
Amazing, amazing work you're doing there. I appreciate what you're doing, and it's very, very important for mental health. Child therapy, play therapy is also very important, so that you can also communicate with these children. Even art therapy, right? You mentioned art therapy?
Yes, we have play therapy, we have art therapy, music therapy, and dance therapy.
Amazing.
Oh, and nature therapy.
Oh, nature therapy. I've not heard of that. Okay. If you don't mind me asking, Flora, maybe a quick one. What ages do you have in Nakuru, in your organization? What ages are you working with right now?
For us, we work with 0 to 17 based on some of them, they are outside clients that come in. And then we also have a rescue center for the girls that have gone through abuse and trafficking. So we are able to help them in terms of counseling and rehabilitation. And we also support the family, that's the parents, also to undergo rehabilitation as well, and therapy, so they are able to be on the same page during reintegration, because ours is a short stay for the children, so they just stay for like a maximum of 6 months, and then we reintegrate them back to their parents. And so we realize most of the time, like initially we would do counseling and support and therapy and all this matter of mental health support for the children, and then we left the parents. So during reintegration, we would reintegrate a child who is more empowered, and to a parent who is not empowered. And so when the child goes back to the community, this parent doesn't know what to do with the child. So we had to include that aspect of positive parenting for the children, therapy therapy, counseling, and all those sessions for the parents before reintegration. So when we're doing reintegration, then it makes it a lot easier for the child to settle into the community.
Amazing work you're doing there. I like the fact that you're doing inclusive therapy for both the caregivers and the children. And when the therapy is inclusive, we come up with a very healthy community, and these children are able to thrive. I am amazed at what you're doing, and that's a very, very good job. So our next slide, somebody wants to talk?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. Yeah, when you're starting,
Okay,
you're looking for me. I'm here now. Yeah, I just wanted to add
Karibu
something.
sana.
In school, we also engage the children in drawing. And also
Yeah.
we engage them in a lot of coloring, because you find that sometimes it's very hard to identify a child who's depressed or who has anxiety or who is having mental challenge. But when you involve them in drawing, you will realize when they're using the colors, you will find that a child who is always stressed up will be using dull colors. And all the time his work will always be like using dull color. But a child who is not mentally having a problem will be normally use the bright colors. And also when they're drawing, you will realize a child who draws and rub, he draws and rub, he draws and rub, that child also has a problem. Another thing is also you will realize when they're drawing, what they don't want, they will normally want to draw it very small and very untidy. You find a child just drawing a good picture and then scrub it, as if he wants to rub it. That one is when you can identify that the child is also having a problem. So the drawing and artwork is also very important, especially when you're dealing with a large number of children.
Amazing. Wow. Amazing. We are really learning how to work with our children in observation and also in the art therapy. It's amazing. We should also not forget about ourselves, the caregivers. Who cares for the carer? We need also to do supervision. We also need to keep ourselves updated on the policies that are there. What policies are there in your organization that help you as a caregiver to be able to safeguard this child, to be able to give this child your full attention, to show up as a caregiver in your full body, mind, and soul? We need to also look at what we are working with as individuals and how we care for ourselves. All right, anyone who wants to add something in our seconds? Thank you so much, Dorothy. I really enjoyed about the drawings. So we go to our next slide, abuse and neglect. I will not go into the descriptions of abuse and neglect and the definitions, because we all work with the children organizations. We are aware of what it is. What are we talking about? There are emerging issues that have come up recently. Children are dying in the hands of caregivers in our schools. Sometimes you hear on the news, you just hear that a child had gone for a school trip and they died. A child was beaten in school and they died. A child went for swimming and they died. Who are these people who are taking care of these children? We are not blaming them, but are there guidelines? Are there policies? I'll give a case in point that has come up since January 2025. Child was murdered in Kamulu, right outside the school compound. Kamulu is in Ruai. Another child drowned in Ruai also during their school trip. Another child committed suicide in Donholm. It was alleged that he committed suicide. It was not proven that he committed suicide, but it was alleged that he committed suicide in school. He fell from the 4th floor of their school in Donholm. The case is still ongoing. What are we doing about bullying in schools? We've had this, I'm not saying that the high-end schools are really bullying children, but we've also had cases of prefects beating, having all authority, beating their colleagues to death, beating their colleagues that they can't even, they cannot be questioned for their punitive expedition for their other colleagues. We've also had abuses on TV, Nation, on YouTube. We've had abuse in religious institutions. What are we doing about it as child protection and safeguarding caregivers? What are we doing? How do we prevent this? Anyone who has come across such cases, or I'm dreaming, in your schools, in your churches, in your environment where you live, there are horrific cases of children being harmed, being killed, and also being harassed. And where do these children go? How do we prevent this? What are the strategies that we can prevent these cases? Anyone?
I hope I won't be talking too much or contributing too much.
No.
I think we need to let others talk. But
Karibu sana. Thank you. This is Laura.
one of the strategies that we have used, because most of the cases that as an organization we've been doing is a lot of responding, like tunangojea, when the case happens, that's when you respond. So it was more of reactive. And so just the other, I think it was last year, but 2023, when, we decided let's start a positive parenting club. Actually, it's a kind of very Kiundudo setup. I don't even know how to call that, because it's not like a formal setup where you have, all these write-ups about, the project or the program. But we thought it would be a good idea of having, like parents themselves coaching each other and talking about what the good practices of this family that's been working when it comes to dealing with children, especially adolescents and smaller children, because you realize adolescents are not as expensive to raise as the smaller children. And so there are those kids that, out of the challenges they've gone through when they're small, they become truant kids. And so the other parents who have like teenagers, they are able to coach the ones that are a bit younger. And of course, for them to attend, most of the time, we either provide them with a package or a food. We call it a care package, but it's more of a food package for the family, for them to sit in our meetings for like those 2 hours and probably share what's working for them. And so they become more of our TOTs in the community. So instead of us now going to do the rescue that we've been doing, a lot of, like the responding of the cases now, what we're doing is trying to minimize on those cases so we don't have to respond. And if at all we don't have to respond in entirety, it's better for us.
Absolutely. I like it. I like the way you identified the organization was more of responsive and not preventive and advocacy. And once you have changed your strategy, I think now the mitigations and the cases have become fewer. I like that. Anyone else would like to share what they have been doing in their organization or as an individual in your own organization, or what you'd like to be implemented so that we can prevent, we can, instead of being responsive, we can create awareness, advocacy, and mentorship? Vivian Okoth.
So much, Janet. Very, very interesting discussions going on. I just wanted to ask if there's a possibility of us as these members of this forum benefiting from online training on positive parenting. I think it's a good thing. We can also replicate in our various projects. Yeah.
I think, Vivian, I can respond to that. I happen to have seen it in the chats. It's a good one. We could think about it and communicate. Thanks for noting that. Back to you, Janet.
All right, thank you so much. I absolutely like the responses that you have given, but we can also share about we need a comprehensive approach that includes prevention, early intervention, and even this response strategy. Response is not so bad, but we need a strategy also. And when we become preventive and we have early interventions. Early interventions may include capacity building, may include safeguarding policies that we have in our organizations. We review them, we sit and what how neglect, even in our own organizations as individuals and even for children when they go back to the community. One of the strategies maybe I would like to share is being aware. Teach the children about their rights, personal safety, how to recognize inappropriate behavior. Once we educate and we create awareness to these children, now when we are going out to that community, we talked also to the adults, age appropriate information, and also the adults should understand these are the safe spaces for children. And these are the strategies we are looking for to be able to safeguard our youth, our children, our organizations, and even parents. We also, like Flora has said about parenting support. Positive parenting is very, very important. Even it was launched by the government about positive parenting training, and it's very, very important. It provides guidance to parents on positive discipline, stress management, child development. A parent is able to know step by step. Instead of having a military parent, that this is the way to go, whatever I say goes. It is important that we create that support to our parents in the community to be able to learn where our children are coming from. What are we have emerging issues that are coming up. Our children for today are not, they're very well enlightened because of online business. We need to create also safe environments. Implement safeguarding policies in schools, in our organization, in our community setups, and even in our online spaces. When we create those environment safe environment guidelines, we are able to guide our children, we're able to guide our parents on how to prevent, how to respond to the safeguarding issues of our children. In our organizations, what do you want to look for? We want to screen staff. We also want to screen the volunteers who are coming into our organizations. We want to screen the community opinion leaders, because those are the trusted people in our community. And should anything happen and our children are not empowered, our parents are not empowered, we are creating more harm than good. Then Flora talked about something very important that I really liked, about early identification and intervention, the training of the professional. Equip our professionals, our social workers. We equip them with the strategies of child abuse and neglect training, positive parenting, policies, and how to review the policies that we have. We also want to have these organizations have accessible reporting channels. Who do we report to? How do we report? Do we document? Ama tunasema ilifanyika by word. Remember, what's not documented is not done. And what is not documented cannot be followed up. So we ensure that we have confidentiality and we have documentation of each and every step that we are guiding our children and our organizations. We also need to collaborate. I thank Stanley for for CAF membership, because collaboration in this group is very, very important, because an organization cannot work alone. We cannot work in silos. We have to work together. We have to plan to safeguard our children, our Kenyan children together, so that we can foster cooperation between schools, law enforcement, child protection services, and healthcare providers also during our documentation. So anyone who would want to add something? Am I too fast? Is that clear? Maybe you can do thumbs up. Please don't doze off. I know it's raining, it's cold. I need some thumbs up, some flowers. Oh, none of you want to give me some flowers, some response?
Yeah, I just want to add.
Do you have
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I want to add is that we normally sit down and decide for the children and talk about children. Like right now, we are talking about children, but we don't have any child with us here. So most of the things we do by assumption. That is the way I normally say, which is not good. But the problem which is happening is that some of us nowadays, we don't have time for children, and also we don't give children platform to talk. You will find that somebody who is a perpetrator is staying within you, but you are not giving the child the time to talk. In school, a teacher doesn't want to give the child the ear to listen. At home, a mother is so busy that he cannot even listen to the child. He will be vangu enda shule, yeah? At the end of the day, the child is telling you today, I don't want to go to school. You don't want to check on what is happening with this child who doesn't want to go to school. At school, the child is sleeping on top of the table, and the teacher is, "Mbona unalala juu ya nini? Ebu kaa vizuri usome." You see, we don't even listen. We don't even give, even when there is a funeral, you find that kama baba amekufa mama, you'll find people coming and telling the woman, sorry, but what about these kids? Do you know what they are undergoing? I've even asked them. Nobody cares about them. So we should always, if you're working with the children, try to see on how we can include them. Because after all these incidents, when they've happened, you will find that a child was discussing with another child about something which could have been solved, but there was nobody to give this child the ear to listen. We always blame them. Mbona umevaa socks mbili yenye ifanani? You don't know whether this child left the house without the mother. So he was just trying to figure out things the way the mother does so that he can come to school. A child is late at school. The teacher beats the child. Mbona umechelewa? Unapendanga kuchelewa. But he has not gone behind this child to ask what is happening with this child. So sometimes, sisi kama wenye who are with the children, sometimes I also put the blame on us because we don't give the children the platform to talk. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. I have really touched on a very strong point. Anyone who would like to add what has been spoken?
I think one of the things as organizations, when it comes to policy and regulations that we miss on is that we don't have safeguarding policies. When I mean there's actually there's a difference between a child protection policy and a safeguarding policy. A safeguarding policy is actually one that directly touches on everybody who comes into contact with that child. It could be that this child has gone through one or two or more forms of trauma or abuse, and so you do not want to be the reason why this child gets re-traumatized. I say this with all due respect to schools, because a lot of schools do not have that safeguarding policy. And so, unapata maybe mtoto amekuja shule, maybe, you know, especially the teenage mothers that we support. Mtoto alibakwa, akapata mimba, and so they are enrolling back to school. Na akiinua mkono ajibu, aulize swali kwa klasa ama ajibu, unasikia mwalimu akisema, yes, mama nani, you know, like you're in class, but huyo mtoto hatasikiza hiyo lesson again, and that becomes the end of that conversation, na hivyo ndio watahepa shule. So maybe as organizations and as you know, people that interact with children and deal with children on a daily basis, we need to come up with a safeguarding policy such that we do not re-traumatize these children. We are not the reason why watoto wanahepa mali wanafaa kukua. If at all they're supposed to be safe in a church, for example, there need to be a safeguarding policy for these children. We also need to have a child protection policy for these children in whatever space that we will be in. Hata kama ni shule, even when they come to a rescue center like mine, they need to be able to feel safe. They need to feel like they are protected enough, like they can speak out their mind without someone having to bully them around and bulldoze them around and, you know, like even pick up on them again or use their words against them at some point.
My worry is, let me just echo something. Do we follow the policies?
Do we?
That is the policies in the organizations are written document. So it also needs to have the penalty.
I'm saying for us, we normally do, because for every person that comes,
not on your organization, but I'm trying to put it that do we follow the policies? Because even as teachers, they always have ethics of teaching and all the conduct, but when they come there, they don't use it. So another thing is us, are we following the policies? You too, not with your organization, but outside here, even if you look at the schools, you find that people don't use what is there. I think the policies nowadays are just in papers. Because you
Yeah,
find that
because
people say that,
they will remain in paper. They will remain in paper because there's nobody to implement them.
Implement them, yeah.
When the changes happen, especially let's say you have one deputy principal, or you have a principal or a head teacher that's implementing them. When the next one comes, maybe they're not even trained on that issue, and so it tends to hang like that. Like zile reforms, ni kama tu reforms za Michuki. Let's be honest, transport was very good. And when Michuki left, and he left with his, staff, because guys just held on to them for a couple of months, and the chaos started again. So it's just the same thing. I think we need to have like normally we have champions for GBV within the counties. Maybe we need to also look at how we can have our own champions within the communities, because we have very passionate CSVs, for example, but they are not well trained on matters children. They just know a lot about access to healthcare and how to, report on these things. What if we also train the same people, so they are also point of references and communication to these community members on the same? What if we trained maybe the sub chiefs, wanaitangwa hivyo na wazee wa nyumba kumi? Everybody goes to these guys, so maybe that information can help in terms of setting up the community for whatever areas that we are talking about.
Yeah, that is a good idea, and I agree with it, because we have to remind ourselves so that people can know that these things should be implemented. Advocacy still needs to be done. Thank you.
Wow,
Yeah,
this is
sure.
amazing.
Janet, I love how engaging the session is, and actually that was the intended purpose. But then I see various colleagues raising their hands. I saw Masimora had something to say.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Sorry, earlier on I wasn't in a position to really introduce myself, but my introduction is in the chat. I am loving the conversations that are ongoing, because child well-being is at the core of my work, and I would say is my number one passion. I'd like to first support what Vivian had said. Like, if we could have more forums where we could engage like this, like share as colleagues and practitioners, we could share on matters regarding to child well-being, but also to emphasize on what someone else, I can't remember their name, they brought up the approaches of compassion-based practices when it comes to children, and really putting children at the center of our work, like giving them voices and giving them platforms to really participate and engage in matters that are about them.
Absolutely.
Something else, Janet, you've said, which I really wanted to echo, was advocacy. Advocacy for child matters, which would mean, practitioners, people who are in contact with children every day, say caregivers and their teachers. We really need to advocate for the well-being of children, which can also entail capacity building teachers to know, like, if a child behaves like this, what could this mean? So they don't just assume if a child is aggressive and they're bullying others, or they're showing some problematic behaviors, they don't just assume that this is just a bad behaved child and they just need to snap out of it. There could be a whole problem revolving around that behavior, probably coming from home, from the community, from the school. Maybe a child was abused, and you're really not able to note this and address it in a way that is helpful to this child and others. So yeah, my request is, Stanley, please, let's have more of these engagements. They are really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Stanley, I hope I'm not locking anyone else outside.
I think there are several people raising their hands, but I'm a bit worried of time. Maybe I'll leave you to decide.
Okay. I would like to just, I'm not putting them all. I would just like to highlight a few issues that have come up with the conversations that we've had with three of our members. And somebody raised about child participation. And I really want to emphasize on that. Why? Because we empower confidence in our children when we allow them to participate in our better decision making. You see, child participation is very essential in safeguarding in child protection. It ensures that this child, their voices, their opinion matters. You hear them, because most of the time these children are unheard of. They're not seen. Their voices are not heard. And once you make a decision as an adult, they think, you have done it, you didn't ask for my opinion, I will follow just because. And they don't see the importance of following through, even the safeguarding policies that you're talking about. Even when we are in schools, I like what one person has said about the schools and the caregivers in schools, the teachers. We have very good documents in our shelves, but implementation has become an issue. Stanley, somebody has raised an issue saying that we need more of these forums so that we can be able to safeguard our children and do better for them to participate. And when we allow our children to participate, we create confidence. We are having better decision making because we get their opinion, we let them know they matter, we hear them, we see them, because they're voiceless. Sometimes some decisions are done and no child participation has been recorded. So we need to strengthen their protective systems in terms of hearing them, listening to them, and even having them write down something that they want to be incorporated in what they do. We want to promote inclusion and equity, all right? So we can continue with the slides, then we can have more discussions before our time is up, if you allow me. Summary of the CAF members, engaging CAF members in solutions. Which is which? Okay, we have highlighted what exactly we have cited. The negligence, it has come up. Educational crisis has also come up. The digital discipline, I've not had someone mention, but it's very, very important. But it was in our feedback form earlier on, those who signed up. Our child protection gaps, mostly of child participation and implementation, as Flora and Katha was putting it. Implementation process has lagged behind. And also poor preventive measures. We have said we need to be more preventive and then responsive, and then we need advocacy so that we can have minimal cases on this. We also say that we need to look at our policies. We need to engage ourselves, our policies. How do we review them? Are they working for us? Somebody asked, are we really reading our policies? Now we are taking step by step in our organizations. Like you remember in the beginning, I asked this question: how are we understanding the underlying and emerging causes of child safety? It's because of the policies that we've talked about. We are not reading them. If we are reading them, we are not implementing them. And if you're implementing them, we are not having all-inclusive and equity in that implementation process. What am I saying? Our children participation, our caregivers participation, community, parents. We don't empower one person and give another person the burden of understanding what you have already created, what you have already trained them or capacity built on them. We need effective strategies, yeah? So, and also I talked about, we need to promote positive interactions, just the way the members of this group have talked about. We need more strengthening. We need to encourage the members to share their data. What has worked for you in Katha? What has worked for somebody else in Nakuru? What has worked for somebody else in another sub-county? So that we can be able to share and have a positive inclusion across boards. Having said that, we can have our plenary discussion, and I will be guided by Stanley. Anyone who has anything to add on that? Any clarification?
I see Rose Onyango has raised her hand. Rose, kindly unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Rose Onyango from Kisumu. What I wanted to echo was about, I think despite that we are talking of involving the people that we are working with, we should also involve teachers, because you find that in most of the time, these teachers are the people that spend a lot of time with our children, and some don't have information. Like when you tell them about policy that are safeguarding the children, they don't know. So maybe even in our activities and also with the people that we're engaging in the community, we should also engage teachers by creating awareness to them. This is how things should be done. If a teacher gets a transfer, there's at least someone that is a champion in that school who knows what should be done. That is what I wanted to echo, and also other things that have been said, I support and I concur with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Onyango. That one is great. We appreciate your inputs. I also saw Purity wanted to contribute on something. Purity?
Everyone, is Purity Mora. I'm a safeguarding officer. I was working at Total News. And one thing that really worked for us, like during the time I served as a safeguarding officer, was building the capacity of children around safeguarding. So training children on their rights and what is needed really helps in ensuring that there's compliance with the safeguarding policy, because they're able to report, because reporting is an aspect of the policy. Also training organizations and people, just like Rose and Dorothy said, training capacity building is very important. So also having children understand that this is not supposed to happen. That's very important. Thank you, Stanley.
Those are well thought points, Purity. We appreciate your inputs. In the best interest of time, I know we need much of this and even plan better for the next engagements. Let's feel free to always come and, share our knowledge, share what we feel like we need to improve on our coordination mechanism. And I believe as the Secretariat, we can always come and support in any other things, even bringing members together. If anyone feels like they have something that they can lead us on, like now Janet is doing, let's engage. We could host more and more platforms. So at this point, allow me to go to the next steps. And I think one of the suggestions we were coming up with is to consolidate all that we are getting. We have started this with just collecting your feedback from a Google form, just to identify the current issues affecting children. I did that. Currently, I'll work on a very organized report and share with us for our inputs and consumption. Then apart from that, we are planning to hold some national child rights advocacy. Maybe as the Secretariat, we'll plan and see how we can best do this. Currently, we've engaged a lot of advocacy platforms. We've seen how social media can be able to help us influence policies. So on this, I shall also come back to you people and see better ways of making sure that child welfare is safeguarded. Then we plan to hold webinars. Currently, as the Secretariat, we are planning for an international conference on child protection. We are proposing it to happen in the month of November from the 5th to 7th. Feel welcome, reach out, inquire more about the conference, and let's plan together. Then we also plan to develop some monitoring tool just to track our progress in implementing child rights issues. So at some point, I'll also coordinate how you can get these tools to facilitate your work. Then I think resource mobilization is a very critical element when it comes to child protection. And on this, we can come up together as members, even do those joint fundraising so that we can support our work. Then partnership is very critical. Even the act of you coming up in this meeting shows some kind of collaboration. Let's do it together. Let's make it happen as we proceed with our work to protect our children. I think children are the most important people we have in our society. So if we protect them to the better, then we are making things right. So at this point, I just want to thank my colleague, Janet. We've worked with Janet closely, and at some point, I just gave her a call that I needed us to hold this kind of a session. She never hesitated. She was like, why not? We are working to protect our children. So I'll expect to get more calls so that we can plan for more sessions. It is our work. And at some point I say, when we serve humanity, we just come with a clear heart. So without leaving no one behind, I just want to appreciate you all taking time to attend this meeting. And as the Secretariat, we will come back to you and share the outputs of this meeting. Unless anyone has anything. Janet?
I just want to say thank you so much for showing up. And this is a positive way for showing up for our children. When we are healthy and wealthy in our hearts and in our brains, we will be able to implement these policies. It's not a hard task. It's only that when we put our minds to it, get the right structures in our organization, get the right collaborative activities with other organizations, we will be able to make it right. We will be able to influence advocacy for our safeguarding. And I would like to just say, you can reach out also to me. We can be able to walk this journey together. Thank you so much, Stanley.
Thank you, Janet. I see Purity as something. Purity, feel free to unmute and speak.
Thank you, Stanley. I was wondering if you could please type in your email address in case we'd like to reach out to whoever is organizing. I know it's you, but if I can just get the email, or we can get the email, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I remember I shared in the chat, but I'll post it again. Thank you. With that said, maybe I'll just state my email. You could reach out to us at okothstanley@institutechildstudies.org. I'll repeat, okothstanley@institutechildstudies.org, or write to us at childrenagendaforum@gmail.com. My contact phone number is 0723-582-406. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for creating time. We'll do more of this. Santeni.
Thank you so much.
All the best, and thank you for having us.
Welcome.
Thank you.